think that a full body MRI is either going to tell you everything's perfect or something is terribly wrong. The reality is not quite as clear-cut. I recently had a full body preventative MRI scan, and going through the results taught me something that I didn't expect. Most of what gets flagged on a scan like this isn't dangerous. It's just unfamiliar. Cysts, fluid, minor disc changes. Things that sound clinical and scary until someone explains what they actually mean. So today, I'm walking you through my results so you can get a sense of what these scans actually provide, whether or not they're worth it for you. So if you've seen these MRI scans online, maybe you're curious about them, maybe you've never heard of them before, I'm gonna tell you exactly what you're in for. We're gonna go through my report system by system, the way the report is structured. Head and neck, chest, abdomen and pelvis, spine, and vascular. So let's get into it. Starting from the top. Brain, ventricles, cerebellum, pituitary gland, and thyroid. For me, all of these were completely normal across the board. No nodules on the thyroid, no abnormalities anywhere in the brain structure. This is an area that a lot of people might be anxious to know about. And honestly, if there was something here, you would want to know. But for me, that was all clear. Next, let's look at the chest report. Heart, pericardium, thoracic, all normal. No pulmonary mass, no lymph node enlargement. The one line worth mentioning is that the pulmonary nodule technically cannot be excluded. This is standard radiology language. It doesn't mean the one was found, it just means there's limitations and that a smaller one could have been missed. And this is one of the things that's worth keeping in mind when we talk about MRI scans in general. But we're gonna come back to that a little bit later in the video. Next we have abdomen and pelvis. And this was where most of my actual findings were. So let's go through them properly. On my liver, there were approximately 7 tiny hepatic cysts, the largest just 6 millimeters. These are extremely common and clinically insignificant. They show up in a significant portion of the population, and they noted that there was no follow-up required. And then pelvis. There were a few things here. I had some small fluid-filled cysts on the cervix. These are also extremely common in women and completely benign. Now, the one thing that did require a follow-up was the 22 millimeter lesion on my left ovary. The report describes this as looking like normal cysts related to ovulation, not something concerning. But because there are some MRI limitations, the recommendation was a dedicated pelvic ultrasound to confirm. This is a good example of a preventative MRI doing exactly what it should, flagging something for a simple, low-cost follow-up, rather than missing it entirely. So I did have that follow-up appointment, and turns out it was nothing of concern. Now, before I get into my spine findings, because those were interesting and not what I expected, I quickly want to thank today's sponsor, Sodi. Hydration and electrolytes come up constantly on my channel, and Sodi is the one that I actually use daily. It's got sodium, potassium, and magnesium with 0 added sugar, which matters because a lot of electrolyte products are essentially flavored sugar water. You're not getting much beyond a sugar hit. So whether you're training, fasting, or just trying to stay properly hydrated day to day, this is what I reach for. The link will be in the description down below, and use code HCK15 to save 15% off your order. Okay, this part of the report was interesting. At L5-S1, the very bottom of the spine, there was some disc desiccation, which just means the disc had lost some hydration. And this can be completely normal depending on your age and your activity level. There was also, and this kind of shocked me to read, mild height loss. A posterior disc bulge causing mild spinal canal narrowing and a small tear in the outer ring of the disc. And this really surprised me. They did mention in the report, and when I did my follow-up review of the report with the doctor, that this could cause some lower back pain. And I do have to say that isn't actually something I struggle with regularly. Yeah, sometimes if I sleep on my back wrong, it might be sore, but in general, I don't have a lot, if any, I guess, noticeable lower back pain. And the report did say that this didn't require any intervention on its own. It specifically said that this should be correlated with symptoms. So if I were having significant back pain, this would be a relevant finding to discuss with my doctor. And I guess if any back pain does start to pop up, I know that this could be a potential cause. Now, there were also multiple cysts here, small fluid-filled sacs along the nerve roots, most noticeable around the T6, T7 level, and a couple other ones near the base of the spine. But both of these are textbook examples of incidental findings. They're benign, usually cause no symptoms, and aren't generally something to worry about. And then we get to the vascular portion. All patent, no narrowing, no aneurysms, and no malformations. And this was one portion that I was really curious about because obviously I do talk a lot on my channel about health, about nutrition. I do promote high-fat diets. And with that, there does come a lot of concern about heart health, about cholesterol, all of that. But my arteries completely clear. That's what patent means. Now, before I get into the broader picture of what this all means, I actually want to address some criticisms and some reasons why someone might not want to get a full body MRI scan. Because I do think it is a reasonable argument, and not something I had actually thought about before I got this scan. The concern researchers and doctors raise is something called overdiagnosis. A full body scan is going to find things. Cysts, small nodules, minor structural variations, things that have likely been there for years and might not be causing you any problems. And they might never cause you problems in the future. The issue is that once something shows up on a report, it can trigger a cascade, follow-up scans, biopsies, sometimes even surgery. And for something that may never have become dangerous in the first place. There's a reasonable body of evidence in radiology around incidental findings leading to unnecessary procedures. And the anxiety alone from these reports is something to flag. And that's why understanding your results is so important. I really did appreciate how the report I got and the follow-up appointment with the doctor were so thorough. They flagged everything that came up, but were very clear about what wasn't an issue at all. Because if I read the report without all that nuance, seeing all those cysts in various places, seeing the variations and the dehydration in my spine, yeah, that would have given me some anxiety. So the report really helped. There is a trade-off here. For some people, these could catch something early that could be a problem. But I have heard of other cases where people had unnecessary surgeries. So take all that for what you will. So in general, my report findings were either completely normal or incidental findings that are common and benign. And the one thing I did have to follow up also ended up being benign. This is what preventative screening is supposed to do. It's not about finding something terrifying. It's about catching these things early, getting context, and ruling things out with simple follow-ups, rather than waiting until something becomes symptomatic. And I do want to flag some limitations here. The report itself was very clear about full body MRI isn't as sensitive for some cancers, particularly early stage lung and pancreatic cancer, and it doesn't replace things like mammograms and colonoscopies. It's one tool, not a replacement for targeted screenings. And I also want to mention who I had the scan through because I know that's a question I'm going to be asked. And the company was One MRI. They work with clinics all across Australia. Now, to be completely transparent, I did work with them on some Instagram content, but this video is not sponsored. I really wanted to go through my results because when I did post that reel, I was getting a lot of questions about my specific findings and about MRI scans like this in general. But I truly think that One MRI is an amazing company. Their price is right there on their website. They're transparent about that. It's not hidden deep once you make a call or anything like that. Everyone I spoke to throughout the process at One MRI, whether that be from my initial screening call, to the radiologist, to the doctor I did the follow-up with, all very friendly, all very helpful. The doctor, especially at the end, really took the time to explain every single thing with me and answer any questions I had. I didn't feel like, you know, when you go to the doctor normally and you're in this 15-minute window and you have these questions and your doctor just seems like they're trying to get you in and out and not actually listening to you. That absolutely was not the case here. I did also ask him a few other questions not related to this, and he was happy to take the time to answer. So I just wanted to mention that before I wrap up because I know I'm gonna get the question where I had my scan done. And like I said, they do have locations, or I guess clinics they work with all across Australia. I'll put the link in the description box down below if you want to check them out. But I'm curious, have you had a full body MRI scan like this done before? What were your findings? Did you find it helpful? Did you find it increased your anxiety? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, I also have a video where I go over a full blood panel I did recently, over 70 tests, so you can see what else is happening in my body after 9 years of eating a high-fat diet. I'll link that on the screen now.